"I speak 9 languages," said the brilliant black woman. The judge laughed, but was left speechless. She stood at the center of the courtroom, hands restrained, but her posture steady. Amira Cole, 24 years old. A woman who could speak 9 languages with the kind of fluency textbooks could not teach. Yet today, the room was filled with quiet laughter and raised eyebrows, as if she was a child pretending to play scholar. Judge Leonard Hayes leaned back in his seat with a slight smirk, watching her like she was entertainment, not a human being. His tone held that familiar arrogance of someone who believed the system always chose his side. Prosecutor Martin Hale stepped forward, tapping his pen against the podium as if counting down to her humiliation. "So, Miss Cole," he said slowly, "you claim to be a linguist, to interpret languages professionally, but you have no degree, no institution backing you, no certification, nothing at all. So tell us, why should anyone here believe you are anything but a pretender?" Soft murmurs broke out across the gallery. Some shook their heads. Others exchanged looks of amusement. No one in that room expected anything from her. To them, Amira was just another black girl trying to act like she belonged somewhere she did not. But they did not know the truth yet. They did not know what she was about to show them. If you are watching this, stay with me till the end. And if you want more stories like this, make sure you subscribe and like the video so these voices are never forgotten. She grew up in a neighborhood where opportunities were like rare birds. You could see them in the distance, beautiful and bright, but they almost never came close enough to touch. Amira Cole was raised by a mother who worked long shifts at a nursing home, coming home with tired hands and soft eyes that still tried to show hope. Her father was not around, and the world did not wait for girls like her to figure life out. But language, that came to her like breathing. While other children played with jump ropes and chalked sidewalks in colors, Amira found herself fascinated by the sounds of speech. She would sit near the old radio her mother kept in the kitchen, twisting the dial to foreign stations she could not understand. She listened anyway. The rhythm, the tone, the way certain vowels stretched like fabric and others snapped like rope. When she was 11, the family down the hall spoke Spanish. By 13, she was translating their mail and helping them speak to landlords and clinics. By 15, she was speaking Spanish fluently. But English and Spanish were only the beginning. The community around her was layered with culture. A Jamaican grandmother who spoke patois, a Pakistani tailor who used Urdu with customers, a small restaurant owner who chatted in Arabic with suppliers. Amira listened, then she repeated, then she absorbed. Language turned into music, and she developed an ear for every movement of sound. What she did not have was money. University brochures arrived in the mail sometimes, bright and promising, showing smiling students under sunny courtyards. She would hold the papers for a moment, imagining herself in those pictures, then place them quietly in the trash. Tuition was impossible, and scholarships were like lotteries. Instead, she studied in the small hours of the night, using old library books, online courses, and free forums where strangers corrected her grammar. She joined international chat groups just to practice speaking. Her accent shifted, softened, and adapted like water, taking the shape of every cup it entered. She became fluent in 9 languages without stepping foot in a university classroom. But the world did not applaud self-made brilliance. It questioned it. Every time she applied for a job, she reached the same dead end. "Your skills are impressive, but where is your degree?" She was told she should come back after getting an education, as if education and learning were the same thing. She watched people half as skilled take jobs simply because they had a line of printed text from a prestigious institution. It was frustrating. It was cruel. And it was constant. Then came Victoria Grayson. Victoria was polished, confident, and ran one of the most powerful translation consultancy firms in the state. She claimed she supported diversity of talent and told Amira the company wanted to work with her on an international corporate project. It sounded like a dream finally opening. The company sent her documents to translate, and she worked through nights, pouring everything into the task. She delivered high-quality translations across multiple languages, bridging cultural nuance and tone with remarkable precision. The praise she received in the beginning sounded warm. Victoria called her a natural asset. She said Amira's understanding of language was rare. But all of that changed once the company asked her to sign forms claiming she had interned under their training program. The forms were false. They wanted her to lie so they could market her skills as a product of their company, taking credit for everything she had taught herself. Amira refused. From that moment, everything shifted. Emails stopped coming. Calls went unanswered. Then, a month later, she was summoned to court with an accusation that made her stomach drop. Victoria claimed that Amira had fraudulently represented her skills and falsified documents to obtain work. The same company that had begged for her translations now stood in front of her, calling her a liar. The humiliation began quickly. News articles surfaced calling her a fake polyglot. Employers she once hoped might consider her blocked her email. The story moved fast, faster than truth had any chance to catch up. And the day the police came to arrest her, she stood in her small apartment, watching the hallway neighbors peek from their doors, their eyes full of judgment. She was handcuffed and taken like a criminal, though she had done nothing but speak languages the world did not expect her to speak. Her mother watched from the doorway, unable to stop anything. That image never left Amira. The helplessness, the silence, the world deciding her value in one sweep. By the time she entered the courtroom, most people had already made up their minds. To them, Amira was not brilliant. She was not self-made. She was not gifted. She was just someone who did not belong. And the system was ready to prove it. The courtroom felt colder each time Amira walked in. The benches were filled now, not with supportive faces, but with people who came to watch a spectacle. Reporters tapped their phones, ready to post the next headline. Every camera seemed eager to catch her smallest expression, waiting for her to break. The story outside had already painted her as a fraud. Articles called her a self-taught imposter. Commentators mocked her, saying real intelligence required a degree. On social media, strangers debated her worth as if her life was just another trending topic. Some said she lied. Some said she wanted attention. Almost no one believed she could be brilliant on her own. Judge Leonard Hayes made no effort to hide his disdain. He spoke to her in a tone reserved for children who misbehaved. Each time she tried to answer a question, he interrupted her. Each time she tried to defend her work, he rolled his eyes slightly, as if her words were wasting time. His voice carried power, and he used it to make her small. Prosecutor Martin Hale was worse. He smiled as if he enjoyed the performance. He called her a wannabe linguist. He questioned her upbringing, implying that someone from her background could not have possibly learned so much without cheating. He asked why she never went to a university, knowing full well she never had the means. His questions were knives disguised as curiosity. "So, Miss Cole," he said one afternoon, pacing slowly, "you expect us to believe that you, with no formal education and no academic recommendations, speak 9 languages at a professional level?" His voice echoed through the room. Amira tried to respond with calm. "I learned through practice, through work, through—" He cut her off before she finished. "Through pretending, perhaps?" Laughter rippled across the room. Even when she looked at Judge Hayes for fairness, he remained quiet. Something tightened in her chest. Her own voice began to sound distant in her ears. She felt the room closing in, like air was being pulled away from her. She tried to remind herself of every long night spent studying, every conversation with people across the world, every page of grammar and vocabulary she memorized on her own. But under the weight of their stares, those memories felt like they belonged to someone stronger. Prosecutor Hale stepped closer. "You lied to companies to get work you were not qualified for. And now you expect sympathy?" His tone dripped with contempt. She opened her mouth to speak, but her throat locked. Instead, she heard another whisper from somewhere in the gallery. "She is just faking it. No one learns that many languages without school." The words felt like stones. There were moments at home when she sat alone, replaying everything. The whispers came back, the laughter, the headlines. She began to wonder if maybe, somehow, they were right. Maybe talent did not matter if the world refused to acknowledge it. Maybe she had been foolish to believe hard work could ever outrun a system designed to keep people like her outside the gates. Each court session was another brick laid on her shoulders. Each insult was another cut she could not stop. Her confidence, once quiet and steady, now trembled under the pressure. By the 4th week of hearings, Amira stopped sleeping. Her hands shook whenever she picked up documents. Her mind felt heavy, like every thought had to push through thick fog just to form. She stopped speaking in any language other than English. afraid that if she made even one small mistake, it would prove them right. The world had backed her into a corner so tight she could no longer see a way out. And for the first time in her life, Amira Cole began to believe she might lose everything. The day everything began to shift did not look special at first. It was another morning where Amira sat outside the courthouse, hands clasped together, trying to gather enough strength to walk back inside. Her world felt small. Every sound felt sharp. She stared at the ground, trying to stay steady, when she heard a familiar voice say her name in the gentlest way. Amira. She looked up and saw Dr. Hana Lee, her former language mentor, a woman who once spent hours with her in community centers, practicing pronunciation, correcting tone, never once making her feel less than capable. Dr. Lee's presence felt like someone opening a window in a suffocating room. She sat beside Amira, no pity in her eyes, only certainty. "You do not deserve what is happening here," Dr. Lee said. "And you are not going to face this alone anymore." Before Amira could respond, another figure approached. Darius Grant, Dr. Lee's colleague. A quiet digital security analyst known for digging deeper than most would dare. He nodded once to Amira, then spoke with calm clarity. "I started looking into Victoria Grayson's company," he said. "Their internal files were scrubbed. So I recovered what they tried to hide." Amira blinked. "Hide? Hide what?" He held a small folder in his hand. "Evidence that your translations were perfect. They praised your work privately. Then they altered the records to claim your work caused financial loss. It was deliberate, and they did not do this only to you." Before the shock settled, a third person joined them. Avery Sinclair, a corporate lawyer known for taking cases others were afraid of. She was sharp, composed, and her gaze was direct. "I reviewed what Darius has uncovered," she said. "This is not a misunderstanding or a mistake. It is a coordinated system." Her voice stayed steady, but her words carried weight. "These companies reject highly skilled translators from minority and working-class backgrounds. They claim it is because of lack of formal degrees, but the truth is simpler. They want to maintain control. If knowledge stays locked behind expensive institutions, then they stay at the top. People like you threaten that structure." Amira listened, every word sinking deeper. This was not about her being unqualified. It was about her never being allowed to qualify. Dr. Lee placed a hand on her shoulder. "You were never the problem." Amira felt something awaken inside her. A memory surfaced. Being 13, sitting in a crowded bus station, listening to two women argue in Spanish, realizing she understood every word. Her heart had raced with excitement back then. She remembered the joy of discovery, the thrill of connection. Somewhere along the way, the world had tried to take that joy from her. But now the pieces were forming again. Darius opened his laptop and showed the files. Company emails discussing gatekeeping standards. Chats mocking applicants without elite backgrounds. Internal memos marking translators like Amira as replaceable labor risks. And then the most disturbing document of all, a private note from Victoria Grayson herself. "Talented, yes, but not one of ours. Reject, discredit if necessary." The cruelty of it was casual. Avery looked at Amira, not with sympathy, but with respect. "We are going to expose them. In court, publicly, every document, every manipulation, every lie." For the first time in weeks, Amira's breath did not shake. The courtroom that once felt like a battlefield now felt like a stage where truth could finally speak. She could feel her voice returning, her strength. The part of herself that learned languages not for approval, but out of love. Darius closed the laptop carefully. They thought erasing the proof would protect them. They did not expect someone who understands the digital shadows. Dr. Lee added, "And they certainly did not expect someone with your gift to rise again." Avery stood, gathering the documents. "Rehearse nothing. Speak when it is time. Your voice is enough." Amira nodded slowly. The fear did not disappear, but it changed shape. It no longer held her still. It pushed her forward. This was no longer about defending her name. This was about every voice the system tried to silence. The fire had returned. The courtroom felt colder that morning. No one spoke above a whisper. Everyone knew the case was reaching its tipping point. The gallery was packed with reporters, lawyers, students, and curious strangers who had followed the headlines. Some came to watch Amira fail. Some came to watch her fight. But no one expected what was about to happen. Avery Sinclair stood up from the defense table with calm confidence. She carried no frustration, no fear, only purpose. "Your Honor," Avery began, placing several folders and a slim laptop on the evidence stand. "Today we will demonstrate that the accusations made against Ms. Amira Cole were not only false, but intentionally constructed to destroy her career before it could begin." Prosecutor Martin Hale leaned back, smiling as if the outcome was already settled. Judge Leonard Hayes mirrored that confidence, tapping his pen slowly on the bench. Avery clicked the laptop. The courtroom screen lit up. Darius Grant rose from his seat. His voice was steady. "These," he said, "are internal communication logs, metadata records, and digital deletion traces from Victoria Grayson's Translation Corporation. They prove that files were altered, misattributed, and assigned to Amira's name after the alleged project was already completed." Several jurors leaned forward. Darius pulled up timestamps. "Notice the edits. They all occurred within a 30-minute window. The same day, Victoria Grayson's firm received a complaint from a high-profile client, questioning why someone without a formal degree had been assigned to them." Gasps broke through the courtroom. Judge Hayes frowned. "Is this verified?" "Yes," Darius replied, "by 2 independent forensic tech auditors. Their certifications are attached in the documentation submitted yesterday." Hale attempted to interrupt. "Your Honor, digital evidence can be misleading. Anyone could have—" Avery cut him off, her voice composed. "Except this particular data trail required administrator-level access. There were only 3 individuals at Victoria Grayson's firm with those permissions, and one of them is sitting right there." All eyes shifted toward Victoria, her jaw clenched. But Avery was not finished. She gestured to the witness seat. "Dr. Hannah Lee, please take the stand." Hannah walked forward with quiet dignity. The room seemed to breathe differently around her. Once sworn in, Avery asked, "Dr. Lee, could you explain your relationship to Ms. Cole?" Hannah smiled softly. "I was her mentor. Not officially, not through any institution, but through something much older and more human. Language. When she spoke, she did not just repeat phrases. She understood the soul behind the words." The courtroom listened. "When I left for overseas work," Hannah continued, "I believed Amira would be welcomed as a gifted interpreter. Instead, I returned to find her dragged into court and labeled a fraud. And why?" She looked directly at Judge Hayes. "Because she did not have a piece of paper. But talent is not awarded. It is earned." A hush spread over the room. Avery nodded. "Thank you, Dr. Lee." She then turned toward the jury. "We have shown motive, manipulation, and a planned character assassination. But there is one thing no corporation, no courtroom, no institution can take away." Her voice lowered. "The truth of who Amira is." Avery sat. The room shifted to Amira. Slowly, Amira stood. No shaking hands, no tears. Just steady breathing. She stepped forward. Martin Hale smirked. "Here comes the performance." But Amira did not look at him. She looked at the jury. "My name is Amira Cole," she said. "I was told I did not belong here, that I was pretending, that I stole what was never meant for me, but every word I learned, I earned, and I will show you." Then she spoke. She began with Arabic, her voice smooth and grounded like a soft call from home. Then Mandarin, clear and precise, tones rising and falling like flowing water. French followed, elegant and effortless. Japanese next, calm and respectful. Russian came with strength and weight. Swahili, musical and warm, filled the room. Spanish flowed like conversation. Italian danced lightly on her tongue. Then English, steady and rooted, closed the circle. When she finished, the silence was absolute. No whisper, no cough. No shifting chair, just awe. Judge Hayes's smirk had vanished. Martin Hale stared at the desk. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate, as if respecting the moment before turning it into headlines. The courtroom was no longer watching a defendant. They were witnessing a woman reclaim her name. Avery spoke softly. "No degree required, just truth." And the jury knew exactly what they had seen. The fraud was not Amira. The fraud was the system that tried to silence her. When the final verdict was read, the courtroom did not explode into cheers. It did not need to. The silence itself felt like a release, like a long storm finally ending. "All charges against Ms. Amira Cole are hereby dismissed." The words echoed through the room. Amira closed her eyes, letting them settle inside her. She did not cry. She did not collapse. She simply breathed, steady and full, like someone reclaiming oxygen after being held underwater. Judge Leonard Hayes shifted uncomfortably. The weight of his bias, his comments, his smirks, all stood exposed. He cleared his throat. "Miss Cole," he said, voice stiff, "it appears I misjudged your abilities. The court acknowledges your exceptional skill." It was not an apology, but it was the closest he could manage in front of cameras. Prosecutor Martin Hale avoided her eyes entirely. Victoria Grayson stepped out of the courtroom with reporters swarming her, their questions sharp and unforgiving. The world was already beginning to turn. Investigations opened into her company within hours. Contracts were frozen. Stockholders panicked. The same system that once shut Amira out was crumbling under the weight of its own arrogance. But Amira did not celebrate their downfall. She simply walked outside, where the sunlight met her skin. Reporters called her name from every direction. "Amira, how does it feel to be proven innocent? Do you plan to work for a major translation firm now? Will you write a book? Give lectures? Start a school?" Amira looked at them gently. "I just want people to know that talent does not need permission," she said. "It only needs opportunity." And that was the headline the next morning. Self-taught linguist proves genius in court after system tried to silence her. Avery placed a supportive hand on her shoulder. Hannah smiled with quiet pride. Darius stood nearby, relieved and certain that truth had finally found its place. Amira did not win because she defeated them. She won because she stayed herself. Years later, Amira walked through the marble halls of the United Nations, her ID badge resting lightly against her chest. She no longer stood in courtrooms defending who she was. Now she sat at tables where countries struggled to understand one another, where one mistranslated sentence could change the tone of history, and she helped them speak clearly. She moved gracefully between languages the way most people moved between rooms. French to calm a tense discussion, Arabic to help a diplomat feel seen, Mandarin to explain a misunderstanding before it grew into conflict. Her voice no longer needed to prove anything. It simply worked, it helped, it connected. Dr. Hannah Lee visited once, sitting quietly in the back of a conference chamber, smiling as she watched Amira speak. Darius and Avery stayed close in her life too, often invited to her home for dinner, laughter replacing the tension that once defined their shared days. There were no spotlights now. No applause, just purpose. Amira understood something deeply now. The world often waits for permission to recognize talent. It waits for papers, titles, institutions, approval, but real talent does not wait. It grows, it survives, it rises. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more stories of resilience and truth, subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.